What is going on, you guys? My name is Rayge, and we are back today with an overview video on my Dark Dimension 6 City section. Now that I've wrapped it up, I still have yet to, finally edit the final video for the last node, but I wanted to make this video while it's fresh in my mind, but as well go through my team, and if there's any changes, I would go back on, as well as characters that are definitely good, viable options if you guys are interested, especially now that we've seen some, big reworks coming to Sinister 6. Definitely opens the door here for opportunities of theory crafting. So having said that, guys, just want to show you kind of where I am right now, leaderboard wise. I am kind of waiting on my legendary gear, but unfortunately now falling beneath that 1000 mark, but it's pretty awesome. Mr. Hargrave is right below me too, so it's really cool just to see even just the TCP difference, right? He's at 47 million, and again, I'm free to play, but still competitive. I'm just shy of 30 million. It's great to see that difference in contrast here. So always exciting to see, but right now I am banking and saving up on legendary gear, especially there's an opportunity for Green Goblin Classic. Give me exciting times. Now, let me showcase for you guys now the node attempts here. For the first node, super straightforward. As you can see, my 5 character team being Robbie Riaz. We got Big Time Spider-Man, 2099, Cloak, as well as Shang-Chi doing work. 3 attempts in the first city node here. Then we got 2 attacks actually in the second node. Felt way better than the first one, but they all felt really smooth, especially when you compare it back to Cosmic Global. Just honestly, the enemies are weaker. And then lastly, we have the boss node here for the city section being 4 attacks in total. Overall, all took very few attempts, and now it is that legendary grind of bringing up the characters and gear tier levels. But overall, guys, the reason this team works so well, even though we lacked a healer, was the synergy, right? I mean, hands down, Robbie Riaz, without a doubt, the king of Dark Dimension 6, the city section. I mean, if you don't have this character, I do believe it's strongly, it'll take more attempts, it'll be more difficult to get through. You probably need more synergy, but having him as a slotting character, he really does thrive on the number of bleeds that you can synergize. Any characters that have bleed is going to give him more turn meter, as you can see from his passive here, and then with him getting more turn meter, he's just going to be getting more attacks. That's how I was able to really get through it and completely crush these nodes, and he just does so much damage. And even more is like, he's in the meta, he has an ability block, and he's able to provide value to his respective team. Unfortunately, for my team anyways, I didn't have enough gear here to actually bring up Miss Marvel Hardlight. I've heard good things about her, but as well, she doesn't have as much prominence in Dark Dimension 6. So I mean, in my next run, in the timed run, ideally it would be nice to have her, but either way, we got through these 5 characters and they were absolutely amazing. Out of this 5 though, I would definitely say the second most important character is definitely a toss-up between 2 on my team. Spider-Man 2099 just did so much. I mean, his synergy with the bleeds, giving Robbie Riaz more turn meter, and the fact that he also has an ability block. So both of them were really crowd controlling monsters on my team, being able to time that effectively. As you can see, a very low cooldown for this special. He has a very devastating ultimate ability as well, as you can see, and just the amount of synergy that they had, applying slows, debuffs on the enemy. We didn't need a healer to get it done. I know there's been commentary that 2099 is squishy, and I've definitely noticed that, but I didn't have any issues with the 7 red, so you could probably get away with the 5 or 6 red. And the nice thing about these reds for this team anyways, the Tangle Web is farmable now in the Incursions campaign. Now, remember where I said it was a toss-up? Well, the second most important character in my team also seemed to have had tied with Cloak as well. So both 2099 and Cloak played such a huge impact. The amount of debuffs that he had, his devastating ultimate ability, being able to apply blind, defense down, disruption, offense down. I mean, my goodness, this was just such a devastating ability when combined with the rest of my team, and that really is probably what allowed me to get through it with such low minimal attempts here, right? And then lastly, round out the rest of the team with Shang-Chi having really strong damage. I think his prominence is still there, but you definitely do notice that he's one of the squishier characters on the team because of how stat crept everything is now with the Heroes for Hire. But having said that, because the city characters did have lower health pools than the Cosmic global section, his ultimate just absolutely tore them apart, especially when scaled with the right number of pauses, right? So it didn't do much, but you know, he does have like a small little heal with the cleanse. It helped here and there, but at the end of the day, Shang-Chi was really a good supporting cast character. You definitely don't need him, but I felt his presence for sure. Spider-Man, big time. Very, very cheap tech character for City, and that's kind of the reason I brought him in. But as well, now I have a stronger character for war defense. But my goodness, this character was a surprise because I didn't expect him to do too much, but man, he hit like a truck. And when he could with his ultimate, you know, he did a lot of damage on the 300%, flipping positives to negatives. Disruption was big, especially if you knew a character was having taunt coming up. And then as well, his special, being able to clear barrier. So barrier is definitely a concept that's overlooked in Dark Dimension, but when there are characters with barrier, it scales on their HP, right? And having an instant ability that just completely clears it, similar to Kang, I mean, this did more damage than it seemed, and for that much extra value that we didn't expect, I guess, here. Gave himself offense up. His ultimate gives him invasion. You know, he was self-sustaining. Considering I did it, I think when I was going through it, I did have him at 4 yellow, 4 red. So, I mean, even with that, he was still able to get by. So that was pretty big. Any regrets, decisions, guys? Honestly, this team felt really, really good to me. My only concern, there were times where I definitely felt that more sustained, more healing could have been added up. So for sure, I definitely could have probably swapped in a character. Out of these 5, there was one that I would take out. It might very well be Shang-Chi. I think he was definitely a liability for me at times. So I would have to position him away from all the attacks, or, you know, like I said, when he could get his abilities off, thankfully he has good cooldowns. He was a devastating monster on damage, right? But other than that, he definitely fell out of the most out of this team. Everybody else did really, really solid. If I could go back, I probably would bring in maybe a character that's tankier, or a supporting character that wouldn't get targeted as much. So what does that mean for options then? I mean, there's obviously a lot of good and better options than what we've seen in City section now before, but I mentioned this before. I think Miss Marvel Heartlight does make sense with her being in the meta for Arena, but as well being a very prominent character. She's mutant as well. None of the other characters I chose are mutant, so if I had the gear, I definitely would have brought it up, and the value you get from her combining Robbie Reyes would have made sense. However, she is a slower character. She won't get as many turns as the other characters, but her value is definitely nice to have for sure. I think Spider-Woman's also another good choice too, having more of the supportive capabilities and rounding out what Shang-Chi couldn't. Mind you though, you know, I don't have her built up just because of the A-Force meta, and again, she's not a character that I need, but I've heard good things about Spider-Woman, and she's a cheap bio character as well. Firestar, if you need some extra punch in your roster, you know, Firestar is basically a 2099 equivalent, right? Very cheap, mutant character, provides damage, but you can see kind of the overlay here. She's also mutant gear, so that conflicted with Miss Marvel Heartlight. I'm planning to bring Omega Red for my legendary nodes, so that's why I did have to be strategic there. Ronan's an interesting option because, you know, with the new Avengers now being required for Green Goblin Classic, likely folks will have him built up, but you're going to get some value there. What I do like about Ronan is the fact that he does have bleed mechanics involved with his kit. He can apply some blind, so some crowd controlling aspects. He's going to have value with Robbie Reyes, so that would definitely make sense. But if you guys are not planning to build up new Avengers like myself, then it wouldn't make sense. But you're going to be getting a lot of value if you are planning to bring this team up already, especially for the new legendary unlock there. A really strong surprise I think will be fun is Vulture. Now that he's gotten the reworks and the patches coming up here, he's got, you know, turn manipulation. He's gonna be part of the new Sinister Six reworked squad with Green Goblin Classic. I mean, he's a cheap tech character. I mean, this is a no-brainer for sure. You guys are going through it now. I've always liked this kid, but now him getting actually you know, reworked here to stay relevant with the stats, it does make sense potentially as an option. So some really, really good stuff. Other notable mentions here that other people have brought in, but I wouldn't recommend anymore is, you know, we want to get away from this cloak and dagger mix, because keep in mind, whatever you invest in now, there's going to be a Dark Dimension 7, Dark Dimension 8, and so forth as the game grows. And do you constantly want to be building up two very, very expensive Mystic characters? You know, that's really the question you got to ask yourself. I previously brought up Cloak for Dark Dimension 5, so it kind of made sense. I already had invested gear in him, but again, same situation with Dagger. You may have to make that call. I think it's definitely a really good option. They're best in slot if you have the gear, but now that we have Robbie Reyes, that really does change the game, especially with him also being Mystic. I've always liked Squirrel Girl and her support, her capabilities there, but I mean, she's just way too costly. The sustain that you need for the gear investment is just not good value whatsoever. I wouldn't recommend any of the Web Warriors anymore. No more of the symbiotes. Other strong mentions, I'm just trying to make sure that I didn't miss anything here. You know, synergy with the new warriors, right? I think Gwenpool is also a good option too, but again, the mystic trait requirement is something that you need to consider, especially if you want to preserve resources and manage this marathon, right? And Kingpin and Mr. Negative, good synergies there, being both from Underworld, but again, skill and mystic gear investment, when we do have other options right now. When we think about skill, Shang-Chi, Ronin, the Mystic characters, Robbie Reyes has to be part of that team now going forward. So if I could go back, guys, I probably wouldn't have Shang-Chi, and it would have been nice to have maybe Miss Marvel Heartlight as more of that soaking damage. At least she would be able to stay alive, but she doesn't bring much damage, but she would have been that cushion I could utilize. And I've seen other people bring up Miss Marvel as well. I mean, you know, some good value there. She's not relevant in terms of stats, but she does have a good kit. She can protect her team, and that could have been some much needed protection, especially for our team, which was, you know, quite squishy, high in damage, but great synergy. Would recommend. So next go ahead, I probably will swap out Shang-Chi for Miss Marvel or some sort of supported character like Vulture and see how that goes, just to test it out, right? But those are my thoughts, guys. Hopefully this helps you. I'm gonna be making a separate video on my legendary preparation and which characters, but yeah, we're in the final section. We're just shy of the top 1,000 for Dark Dimension 6. Super excited. Always a great time, and there's some exciting patches that are coming out as well, so I'll keep you guys up to date. Really appreciate you following along here. Good luck in your guys' journey as well. Thank you as always, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.